Hi, it's me, Brooks. Thanks for joining us on Heal This. I have a guest today. Yay! This is my sweet friend Tammy, and she and I have known each other for 20 years. Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah. She and I are best friends, and we put up with each other's stuff. We really didn't do a great job introducing you and what you do, but part of what you do is coaching, life coaching. And um, I ask people this a lot. I'm wondering if you ask them this too, but do you have a spiritual practice?
Yeah, a lot of it depends on, I think it comes up inevitably one way or another. It's not always a direct question. Because what tends to happen with me in my practice, people will just start spilling it. They'll just start,
Mm-hmm.
talking about whatever's going on with them. Um, and inevitably, faith crisis, whatever's happening, whatever's the guiding force for them to be pursuing coaching in the first place is
Right.
usually related to, a faith crisis or something happening in their relationship or something happening at work that's not going well, right?
Right.
Some kind of negative force. So it comes up in the conversation a lot about what organized religion versus spirituality looks and feels like.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's usually when I'm pretty direct, so I just ask them, do you have a spiritual practice? And a lot of times I get an answer about church. And I understand that that is a spiritual practice. I also mean, do you have a very personal spiritual practice that you have in your life, a very personal relationship with a higher source? And um, if you do, I want to know what it is.
Well, I do.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely do. And again, it's that transformation from organized religion being prescribed what your spirituality was supposed to look like based on doctrine and, that kind of thing, to this very personal, not needing a middleman connection
Mm-hmm.
with source and the universe,
Mm-hmm.
and so for me, that all started, it all just kind of culminated with the need for me to find something to keep myself grounded during a really, really difficult time. And a friend got me a gift certificate for my birthday. Um, it was a gift certificate for a massage. And so I made, right, like I made the appointment. I'm like, okay, cool, like I'm gonna go get some relaxation. That'll be amazing.
Yeah.
So I went for the idea of, the relaxation, but what I didn't realize at the time was that the practitioner was also a Reiki practitioner, and the only thing that I knew or had heard about Reiki at the time was from one of my clients who, I mean, she just embodied woo woo. Like, she talked about Reiki and I was like, oh my God, here we go. Like, what are we doing, Um, and so, I am
what
just,
is
I'm like,
she raking? That's what I get
I
all the
know, what
time.
is she Reiki? And like, and what kind of drum circle am I going to have to join? And I don't know any of the mantras. Like I'm so behind, right? Like I just was so overwhelmed.
Yes.
So I find out that she is a licensed massage therapist, but she also does Reiki. And I'm like, okay, but what is it? Like I've heard this, I don't know what it is,
Mm-hmm.
So she gives me, the brief explanation about the energies and all of those things, and I'm just like, okay, well, I'm here for the experience. I just decided to be open. I'm here for the experience. I really just need to relax. So whatever you can do to help me do that, I'm up for it.
Right.
And it was that visit literally that put me on a path to understanding, like being able to ask the questions I didn't even know to ask,
Right.
because I was so conditioned by organized religion and by the idea that me having a spiritual practice outside of what was being prescribed was me somehow doing something against the church or against God. And
Yes.
I had to
Yeah.
I had to really put it out there and test that theory. Um and for me, it was just about self-discovery. It was about giving myself permission to question everything and find out what I believe for myself instead of what other people told me that it was acceptable to believe and think and feel. So, of course, I opened that Pandora's box of Reiki, and as I do in just about everything, I researched it, I learned it, um, found my own practice, became a Reiki master, learned a bunch of different things on my own, and also with the help of that practitioner, just really kind of going through, letting her be a conduit for me learning what I needed to work on and heal and let go of. And so over the years, it's just been an evolving practice of mostly helping myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then again, which led me to conversations with you that we had early on. I'm like, hey, what
Yeah.
do you know about Reiki? And you're like, I don't know. Let's
I
talk about
remember.
that,
I remember the conversation. Yes. Mm.
Yeah.
I think
And
it
it
was
wasn't, I mean,
a
for me, it
definitely.
wasn't,
Oh, sorry.
oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I mean, for me, it wasn't anything that was planned. It wasn't like I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
woke up one day and go, I don't believe this anymore, so now I'm going to believe this. It was more of an open ended question where I was asking, what is it that I believe? What is it that I need? And how can I do this? Because I had so much information coming from different people and different sources who all wanted to help me. And
Mm-hmm.
they all had their ideas about what they thought was best for me to do in my situation. And again, it led me to this place that as an adult, I really had to take a step back and go, what's what's the right answer for me? Not filtering it through somebody else, not filtering it through my role as a person in the world,
I love
but
that.
what do I really think and believe? Yeah, like what do I need for me? And being vulnerable enough to not know the answer and still try something different and see
Yeah.
what happens. Because that's the thing I've noticed with a lot of people. It's like, oh, I've heard of that. Yeah, that's not for me. But how do you know if you've never tried it? If you've never really tried it, but you've also never really given yourself permission to do anything outside of what's the status quo or what's accepted by your friends and family,
Right. And I think
you know?
too, you said something else. Um, for so long, we, when we're in a religious setting, we're just told specific things. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe they aren't wrong, but we haven't actually asked God the question ourselves for
Right.
ourselves.
Right.
And so when we're in that moment, when we've kind of let go of one thing, and for me, I was always trying to hold on to something else because I was really afraid to just let go. But that's kind of when I asked Source, what is it? what should I be holding on to? Because I
Mhm.
think it's really easy to just say, oh, well, they say to do this, so I'm just going to do it. But the real work comes when you ask, when you go directly to the source. Look at that, how that worked out.
I
And
know.
and just ask the question, right? What's the right thing for me to do right here, right now? And um, I just got the answer: love. Just love, right? And just hold on to
Yeah.
love. Find it in the most purest form. And I knew I loved my family. So that's what I held on
Mhm.
to. I knew that
Yeah.
nobody could change my mind about that I loved them, and so I was going to hold on to that when I was falling apart. And then it was kind of like, well, I'm going to give you the reins, like, here you go. Please show me the way. So
Yeah.
that's, yeah. And then Tammy walked in. She's like,
Well,
hey, have
and
you ever heard of this? Have you ever heard of that? And I'm like, no, tell me all about
no, what
it. Yeah.
it was just such an eye opener for me because, you know, for so long, so much of just even questioning, right? Like we were we were really conditioned that you had to be obedient in your religious practice, and there was a whole bunch of stuff about what that meant.
Uh-huh.
And a whole lot of, interpretation on my part about what that meant. And I just remember thinking, God, am I opening up a portal to hell? Like, what if I do this? And the devil himself pops out? Like, what's going to happen? Um, yeah, but but that was real. Like, I don't know.
Yes. 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 I get
But the
that.
but the biggest takeaway, right? The biggest takeaway for me for it was having feeling empowered enough to ask the questions and then test it out for myself and find out what was right and what was wrong based on my feeling about that, um so many stories I could tell you about, people call it awakening. some
Mm-hmm.
people some people experience awakening like in a one time, like, wow, like
Mm-hmm.
I was this way yesterday and today I've had this awakening and now I'm different and I can't unsee or hear the things. That's not how awakening has happened for me. I have always felt like I came here different. I didn't fit in. I didn't feel like I belonged here. I've always felt like on the outside of, social circles and things like that. But I've always felt more aware and in tune than other people around me.
Mm-hmm.
But didn't have vocabulary for it as a child. I just knew that I was outcast, right? I wasn't in the inner circle with other people.
Right.
People would say, they were intimidated, or, lots of different things that people have said to me over the years. But now I understand that for me, awakening has been like this lifelong process of understanding and coming into awareness of myself
Mm-hmm.
and having that connection with source. Because for so long it was, you needed a middleman and you needed all of these other external things that religion brings you to
Right. And there's
deem whether you're
conditions,
worthy.
and there's expectations and conditions. So you got to do X, Y, and Z to get that love, to get that acceptance.
Right, right. And then just allowing myself to just be with myself, and the journey to trust it has been the hardest, but also the most rewarding thing that I've ever
Mm-hmm.
done. And I would say, you know, again, I mean, this has been like over the past decade, right? Like bits
Right.
and pieces have come and unfolded, and here we are. But if I look at my entire lifetime, it's been a lifetime of getting to this point of awakening over a period of time and understanding when I was ready and capable of understanding what was being given to me or what I was being made aware of at the time.
Yes.
Because it's always been there. It's always been there. I just didn't know what to do with it. I mean, I can remember
Yes.
being 8 years old, telling my mom things, and she's like, "How do you know that?" Well, I can't explain to you how I know that. I just do. Right. But
Right.
having the back and forth with her, like, you can't know that, but I just did. I do. And I just told you, you know, so
Yeah.
I just learned to put it away. I just learned to ignore it. I just learned
Hmm.
to doubt my own knowing and my own intuition. And
Yes.
so having to unlearn that and come back to it and come back to myself, for me, that's been the awakening. It's like you've always had it, it's always been here. Now learn how to really use it and tune into it and be okay with who and how and where you are.
Yes. I love that you brought up intuition. And I also think that most people, that resonates with them, because I think when we're younger, we are definitely more in tune. And then it just kind of gets shut off or told, don't do that. It seems kind of strange that you know stuff about people. Or,
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
but so a lot of people end up turning it off. And then you're right. It's that relearning, that unlearning some things and relearning new things. And yeah, I like that. Well, so let's talk about intuition. Let's talk
Okay.
about intuition. Um, well, you were saying that you always kind of felt this intuitive vibe, I guess, from when you were really
Hmm.
small. And it kind of got turned off a little bit. It's like you get into a situation where someone's like, well, you don't get to receive those messages. Somebody else is going to receive them for you. Or you're weird if you're having some of that come through for you. Now, for me at least, I'm not speaking for you. I want to hear what you think about this. I my spiritual practice is every day connecting, listening. There's meditation. Sometimes I have to, change the frequency in the room, or, I say it all the time, like music, or lighten it up, and
Hmm.
I'll light a candle, or, I'm guilty of, saging every once in a while, just to alter the vibe in the room, just to bring me back. But intuition is every day, all the time now. And if I am not listening to it, I just feel sick about it. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think so. For me, the 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 piece about it was finally getting to the place where I could really trust myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and whether the intuition was right or wrong wasn't the thing. It was, did I feel it? Did I hear it internally? Like, where in my body am I feeling this and what's going on with it, and acting on it.
Yes.
Again, because you know not needing to ask somebody else, not needing to, weigh out the pros and cons and, whatever it is. It's like, I'm receiving this message for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for me to exercise that muscle, it's like anything else. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it.
Yes.
Maybe not, 100%, but the more you listen, the more you practice, you're going to get stronger and it's going to get better. Like, I've witnessed this with you over the years. Like,
Yep.
you're just now, like, right, there's just no question. It's like, here it is. And I've been a little bit slower to develop that for a lot of different reasons. um but I say that to say, like, when you're using your intuition for your practice with what
Mm-hmm.
you do with other people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And for me, I'm using my intuition mostly for myself. Now it comes into play, with coaching and things like that. I can intuitively see or understand where somebody's at based on their vibe and what they're giving me.
Right.
And then ask them questions. And they're like, how do you know that? How did you know
Mm-hmm.
to ask that?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and explaining that to people who aren't in tune with their own intuition it can be really difficult,
Right.
because I think intuition and psychic ability have kind of, become like this intertwined thing.
Yes.
And I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like intuition and psychic ability are not the same thing. They play off of each
Right.
other, but they're not the same thing.
No, you have to use a lot of the same muscles
Hmm.
to hear all both things. But I
Right.
would say the same even with mediumship, right? I mean, you're using a lot of the same
Hmm.
muscles to kind of hear and listen and to translate what's coming in, but not the same thing. No.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, I maybe this is me speaking out of school, whatever, but like it's all over. It's all over the internet. It's everywhere where people are saying, I'm intuitive tarot reader and I do XYZ, and maybe they do, but using their intuition and being a psychic and being able to tell you specifically a specific message about your life or your situation is really not the same thing as intuitively giving someone a message that they're downloading for, like, a collective, a whole bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's just so much misinformation out there, things that just get really muddied and jumbled up. And so intuition for me is a lot more personal.
Yes,
Um,
I agree.
everybody has intuition, and it's whether or
Everybody
not
has
they
intuition.
are. Everybody is born with it.
Yep.
And it's the level that you use it, right? Like, what do you do with it, and how have you been conditioned to think about intuition? And again, within the confines of a, a structured, organized religion, it kind of turns into, it's the still small voice, or it's the voice of the
Mm-hmm.
spirit, or
Mm-hmm.
however that's resonating within the church. But then you learn to separate yourself from that. Like, it's not you, it's not your voice, it's not your knowing, it's not your intuition, it's coming from an outside source.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that's no longer resonating with me.
Mm-hmm.
Intuition is me being able to fully connect with my higher self
Mm-hmm.
and source, and having that direct link, and not having to go outside of myself and not having to go anywhere else to seek out answers. And I'm not saying, like, in a way of, I'm just going to sit with myself and I am all knowing and I know everything about everything.
Right.
But when it comes to what's right for me as a person and in a spiritual practice, how do I keep myself grounded? How do I stay focused and more positive rather than negative? How do I,
Mm-hmm.
that's how I connect with myself, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes through meditation, but it's not like I don't spend
No.
30 or 40 minutes in
No.
meditation.
Mm-mm.
It's a very quick, you know, sometimes it's several times throughout the day, just refocusing and reshifting myself back to, okay, hang on. That last meeting was really rough. I need to come back. I need to take a break. I need to get a drink. I need to get something to eat. I need to listen to a song that I know will put me in a good mood. I'm going to come back and I'm going to, shift my focus to this, and just being very, very intentional about the vibration that I want to be on.
Yes.
And I think where the link with intuition on that is, you know, what feels good. So one of my mantras that I use in my coaching practice is feeling good is the work.
Yeah, I love that.
And
Mm,
and if we're always focused on what is it that we need to feel good, if we're in a place of feeling good, you know, your thoughts are going to be good, your behaviors are going to be good,
hmm.
your outcomes are going to be good because that's your focus.
Right.
Doesn't It's not 100%, right? Nothing's 100%. Perfection is an illusion. But if that's my mindset, that feeling good is the work and that's what I'm going to focus on, then when I use my intuition, it's more of a, does that help me feel good? Is that,
Right. And
and then,
we're talking about deep fulfillment feeling good, not temporary feeling good. So just
right.
to clarify that we're not jumping
Yeah.
from one thing to the next thing to feel good. We're like in my gut, in my heart, in my throat chakra.
Hmm.
Does this feel good? Those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you can seek out those temporary things, right? That's why people self medicate and all kinds of different things. It's why, there's all the things. Does that make me feel good? Temporarily, it may. Is it
Right.
what's going to get me down the road to fulfillment? Is it where I want to be ultimately?
Yeah.
And
Well,
intuition is a tool to use for that.
yes. And when I teach my intuition class, at the very end, I challenge everyone to go with the knowing, right? It's like a lot of times we recognize that that was probably our intuition because we didn't go with it. It was the times
Mm,
when we're like, dang it, I should have reached out. Oh, yeah, I already knew that and I didn't act on it or I didn't do it. It was all the times we're like,
mhm,
dang it, I should have done that or whatever. That was our intuition speaking to us. That was
mhm,
source or higher self, the universe sending us a message saying, do something different or reach out to this person. They need you or you need them or whatever it is. And we don't do it. And
mhm,
so that's why we have a really hard time trusting. It's one of the reasons why we have a really hard time trusting what intuition is because we're so used to doubting it and not acting on it. So when we actually start going with it, right, we start going with the knowing, and it gets stronger and then gets stronger, and then we're like, oh yeah, that is my intuition, that is me hearing messages, and I have been ignoring them this whole time. And sometimes it's a dream, and sometimes we see pictures in our mind, or we have this feeling, and we don't understand why we are having this feeling. And
mhm.
or we're just, does that make sense? We're just like, oh, I just
Yeah.
feel this really strong feeling like I should call someone, this person in particular. And when you
Mhm,
do it, and then you're like, you'll feel it. You'll feel different because you acted on it and you confirmed it. And that is, your intuition saying, oh yeah, you listened this time. Woohoo. So
right.
I'm going to show up a little stronger next time. And then the next time. And so, yeah, that's, it's been a big part of the change in my life, is knowing that I'm receiving messages every day, all the time. Just most of the time they're for me, but sometimes I get to receive messages for other people that I'm just trying to pass along the message, hey,
Mhm.
just helping you out here. If this helps, great. If not, just ignore me, So, yeah,
Well, you're
yeah.
kind of hard to ignore. I'll just say that.
Love it.
In the best way possible.
All right. Well, we'll talk soon off camera.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Yes. All right. I love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.